Got. All right, we will call the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings order. Brian, do you mind calling the roll?
For Ms. Tabashnik,
Here.
Mr. Cantor, Ms.
Here.
Wells,
Here.
Mr. Rowena,
Here.
Ms. Lankowski,
Here.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Langalis,
Here.
Mr. Schulman,
Here.
and Mr. Bryce.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a quick PSA before we start?
Please do.
This is for all the applicants here. Should you get an approval from the commission tonight, if you receive an email requesting money from someone after the fact for a fee, do not pay that. That is not the city. There is a pretty elaborate scam going on. It's hitting a lot of towns through here. I got 2 emails about it this week. So you will not get a bill from the city post approval. And some of them are asking for up to like $5,000. So do not send any money in.
Thank you. That's an excellent PSA. Great. So for seating of alternates, both Anna and Diana are seated for this evening, as we have 6 regulars. So we will begin with our first application, which is 2023-68, special permit motor vehicle CAM 24 Van Zant LLC P1 Motor Cars, extension of time request for motor vehicle repair use with existing 1-story building, report and recommended action. Who is representing this application? Hi, Attorney Secchi. Would you like to present for the extension of time?
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. First of all, Happy New Year to everyone, and I hope 2026 is healthy, prosperous, and happy to all of you. So getting that out of the way, for the record, I'm Liz Secchi, partner with Carmody, Torrance, Sandak, and Hennessy. I represented the applicant, which was 24 Van Zandt Street, LLC. Representative owner of that entity, Tom Pasalacqua, is on today's meeting as well, in case we have questions for him. Very simply, this is another extension of time. We asked for one from you last year. A motor vehicle CAM and special permit application was approved by this board in 2024. We got the zoning permit, the certificate of special permit was recorded, the Mylar map of the approved site plan were all recorded in April of 2024. And then Mr. Pasalacqua started down the path to secure a building permit, but was a bit stymied in that effort since some work needed to be undertaken in the building before the building department would issue a building permit. Unfortunately, that's been delayed somewhat. It's not a very big job, and with all contractors, the smaller the job, the longer it takes. But we anticipate that the remaining work that needs to be done to satisfy the building department should be done by the beginning of March, and then he will apply for the building permit. That's the only remaining issue, is to actually apply for the physical building permit, but everything else seems to be in order. A question had been raised by Michelle Andrzejewski about use of the property right now. There is no motor vehicle activity taking place. There's no repair. There are just some items being stored inside, but the site is not being used and won't be used until the building permit's been issued, and all the work's been inspected and the CO has been issued. So that's why we're before you for a second extension of time.
Thank you. What period of time are you asking for an extension?
Well, I'd like to ask for a year, but I understand that if the commission is concerned about extensions of time dragging on, I suspect that 6 months would be more than sufficient. And if for some reason we can't get this wrapped up within 6 months, we'd be back before you. But I think that would be a sufficient amount of time based upon what the contractor has told my client as to when the work will be done.
Thank you. Are there questions for Attorney Secchi? All right. Hearing none, is there a motion for the extension of time?
I'll make a motion to approve a 6-month extension.
Okay. Tammy, is that a second?
Yes.
Wonderful. Do we need a resolution for this, Brian or Steve, or can we do a show of hands on this?
I think you just do a quick motion to approve and a vote. I think that would suffice.
Great. So we have a motion to approve for 6 months and it's seconded. I think we can do this by a show of hands. All those in favor, if you could raise your hand. All right, so,
You signed on, so. I'm gonna-
okay, yep, JJ just joined. So all those abstaining would.
I
That's
see.
Galen and JJ, okay, and all those opposed? All right, the motion carries. We hope you guys are able to complete this in the next 6 months. Otherwise, we will see you then.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Thank
members of
you.
the commission. See you
Thank you.
soon.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Have a great evening.
You have a great evening. Thank you.
Our next application is 2025-92 Coastal Site Plan Review. Thomas W. Thill, 13 Ridgewood Road, construct a new single-family residence within the coastal area management boundary, report and recommended action. Who is representing this applicant?
We have the architect Rob Metzger here with us tonight to answer any questions, but I just wanted to quickly say that this is a project or proposal that the city used to exempt from coastal site plan review, but given a new state statute that went into effect on October 1st of last year, we are no longer able to exempt single-family residences within the coastal area management overlay zone from a coastal site plan review. Although this property is, I think it's one property away from the coastal area management boundary, so it's about 900 feet away from any coastal resources. And prior to October 1st of last year, this would have been an over-the-counter zoning permit. We do have a resolution, and I can pull up plans if anyone wants, and Mr. Metzger is here to answer any questions should commissioners have any.
Thank you, Amelia. Mr. Metzger, would you like to speak to this application? I see you have your hand up.
No, well, I appreciate the summary, Amelia. No, I don't have much to add other than, it's a fairly modest house. It's a small lot. The house is in keeping with the size of most of the houses on the street. Currently, there's actually an uncharacteristically small house on the lot, so we are increasing the amount of impervious area on the lot. However, it's still well below the allowable threshold. And yeah, I think that's about it. That's about all there is to say, but happy to answer any questions.
Great. Are there any questions for Mr. Metzger or Amelia? All right. Is there a motion for this application?
I'll make the motion, Chapin.
Is that to approve?
Second.
Oh, yes, to approve.
Wonderful. And Harvey, that's
Second.
is great. Amelia, do you mind pulling up the resolution?
I would say it's a standard resolution, but honestly, this is even less than we would normally require, again, just due to its proximity to any coastal resources and the fact that it would be nearly impossible to cause any adverse impacts with the current proposal. The only thing of note is that Mr. Metzger and I are working on is just making a compliant driveway configuration, but we've added that as a condition of approval.
Thank you.
One thing we've been talking staff level about trying to lobby, get this, take a fresh look at the new legislation regarding these applications, because it's for communities like Norwalk, it's adding more of a burden than it's solving. So we'll run everything through you before we advance it, but we think it's for something like this, there's really doesn't serve any need.
And Steve, would this be the first time that we made some changes to the regs where you don't have to have the garage around the back so that, a car can pull in face wise? Is this one of the first since that?
I don't think that would be applicable since it's just a single family. If it was like a two-family, it might be a different set of rules applying.
Okay. And one question I had was about making their patio impervious. Was that still on there? You took away the resolution kind of quickly.
It is not a condition of approval as it stands because the application, it complies with the zoning regulations apart from the driveway configuration. And then impervious surface is something that you can require as, that's that extra layer of review and approval with the coastal site plan review. However, they are very far away from coastal resources, and typically we encourage impervious surfaces to help filter water prior to, entering a tidal wetland or the harbor, things like that. You Legally, you can add that condition, but I don't know that staff would necessarily recommend it, but it is something worth considering. And I'm trying to pull up the application as I'm talking,
Oh,
so
that's okay.
I apologize.
No, that's all right. I didn't think it was necessary in the location, so I wouldn't want to burden the property owner with that in this particular situation.
Gotcha. Yes, right now there's no condition of approval relating to impervious surface.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Building off that, I'll comment and say if the applicant feels so inclined to do it anyways, great. But yeah. Any other comments or modifications to the approval? All right. Amelia, do you mind doing a roll call for this one?
Not at all. Miss Wells,
Sorry. Yes.
Miss Jordan Byron,
Yes.
Miss Tabashnik,
Yes.
Mr. Cantor,
Yes.
Mr. Rowena,
Yes.
Miss Lankowski,
Yes.
Miss Langalis,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Schulman,
Yes.
and Mr. Bryce.
Yes. Looks like that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great evening. Our next application is 2025-85, Coastal Site Plan Review, Land Tech, 95 Rowayton Ave, trenching landward of a existing shoreline front flood and erosion control structure, SFECS, and reconstruction of a deck, report and recommended action. Who here is representing 95 Rowayton Ave?
Good evening. My name is Tom Ryder. I'm with Land Tech, representing the clients and the applicants.
Good evening. Would you like to present the application materials?
Yes, I have figures here to share if that's allowed.
Please.
Okay, I believe you can see my aerial, correct?
It is coming up. There we go. Now we can see your aerial. Yes.
Great. So what we have is a property, 95 Rowayton. It has two buildings, one here, one here. The rest of it is asphalt, with the exception of this area, which is a concrete pad used primarily for a crane. There is a seawall that goes there, and then a multi-slip dock. Sorry, it's a little touchy on the seawall that I just pointed out is past its lifespan. The boards here are actually put down because there's been a lot of sloughing of the sediment and soil behind it due to the poor repair of the wall. So this all is sediment that's falling down, and so what we're doing is replacing obviously the wall itself. As part of this, we are also have to take down. There's a wooden deck here and a shed. So we'll be taking down the wooden deck and shed, and then replacing the wall. The wall will be aerial for a site plan for you here. The wall that's being replaced is here. Here is the shed, and the wall will be placed 18 inches, up to 18 inches waterward. This design has received approval from Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. What is bringing us in front of your commission tonight is that all of this work will be done from the landward side. And in order to do a lot of this work, we are going to be, this is a profile. So here is the existing wall here. And then here is the proposed wall. Again, is going to be 18 inches, up to 18 inches waterward. But in order to do this, we are going to be putting in a geotex fabric in between the walls, and then putting in crushed stone in between the walls. And in order to do that, we are creating a trench about 4 feet wide along the entire area. But we're not doing it all at once. We're going to be excavating a section, doing this section of the wall, and then backfilling it and doing the next section. So that's replacement of the deck and the shed, and this replacement of the, this backfill is going to be stored on site and then put back. We're not taking anything off site, is all within your jurisdiction and requires a coastal site plan review. and therefore we're here for you tonight. That is really it. It's a very routine maintenance issue. It's just basically a lifespan. And again, it has been already approved by DEP and Army Corps. We're just asking the final stage of asking permission within your jurisdiction.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Ryder?
Yes, Chapin.
Please. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Ryder. Is this basically the same process that was done at the bait shop next door?
Yes, actually, we're following the same design. So yes, it is very similar.
Great, thank you.
Does staff have any comments on this?
No comments from staff. I'll just add, to Mr. Ryder, why this is in front of you is because your jurisdiction is anything landward of mean high water. So a lot of times that mean high water line follows a seawall, which is why you will see plenty of seawall applications come before you. But and there are a very, very small number of activities that are exempt from coastal site plan review when they're within 50 feet of a coastal resource. So that is why you're seeing this. It's landward of mean high water, and it's within 50 feet. So it is not exempt, but staff has no comments.
Are there other questions or discussion? All right. Mr. Ryder, do you have anything else?
I do not.
Okay.
Thank you all for your time on this.
Thank you. Is there a motion for this application?
I'll make the motion.
Is that a motion to approve?
I'll second.
Yes, sorry, motion
Great.
to approve.
And Lou seconded. Amelia, do you mind pulling up the resolution? Great. Are there any comments or modifications to this resolution? All right. Amelia, do you mind calling the roll?
All right. Ms. Jordan Byron,
Yes.
Ms. Tavachnik,
Yes.
Mr. Cantor, Mr. Rowena,
Yes.
Ms. Lankowski,
Yes.
Ms. Langalis,
Yes,
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Schulman,
Yes.
and Mr. Bryce.
Yes. That's also unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Ryder, for your time tonight.
Great. Thank you all for your time as well. Have a good, wonderful new year, and I'll see you at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next application is 2025-84. This is for 163 Gregory Boulevard, and they've asked for a continuation to our next meetings. We will not be hearing that tonight. And then similarly, well, actually, our next application then is 2025-71 CAM, Nicola Bona, High Street LLC, 80 Main Street, proposed mixed-use addition to residential structure, report and recommended action. Who here is representing High Street?
Lyle Fischel, architect, Stamford, Connecticut.
Hi. Would you like to start your presentation, Mr. Fischel?
Sure. Well, the presentation is that we are proposing a 3-story building on Main Street that will have retail at the first floor and 2 floors of residential above that, a total of 8 new units. We've kind of been through the ringer on this one and learning the new zoning regulations. We are not within any coastal resources, but we do have to meet the CAM requirements. So we are here to try to get your approval on the next step of this process, which has included 3 additions, well, 1 new building, 1 addition to an existing structure, and now this would be a new building which will be connected to the existing structure that's been there for over 100 years. It sits up on a fairly high hill above Main Street, and we do have complications with the site. We realize that. We're trying to review and resolve everything.
Do you mind pulling up some site plans to show the new structure and the addition to the existing structure and the overall site?
I don't, I can share my screen, but
Sure.
I do not have the site plan available.
Okay.
Okay, that is, well, here we go.
Amelia, are you able to do it?
Sure, give me 1 second for the engineered site plan.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Thanks.
While pulling that up, I realize with JJ joining, we now have 8 members, so we'll need to alternate between Anna and Diana for this. So Anna will seat you for this application. We'll alternate for the remaining ones tonight.
All right, so you can see the site plan, you can see the approved 9 unit, which is to the north of the site. The approved 5 unit, which is behind the existing structure, which has been there for 100 years. And the new designed building over in this area, which will really be, these 2 are done. This one's about to get a CO, I believe, or it has been CO'd. And this is the one that we are attempting to create to finish all the design on the property. We have included all the retention that was required for the pervious or impervious area of the parking. We have included public realm space, and our driveway comes up over here, leads up here, about a 10-foot difference from here to there to the parking area in the back here. At the time we did the design, parking was not a requirement, but now it is a requirement. So we are showing the required parking spaces for that building.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Are other people able to see the cursor?
No.
when-
Right.
Unfortunately, the
Okay.
cursor is on Amelia's screen. Mr. Fischel, do you mind describing again some of those components so that Amelia can point along with you?
And is it possible we can see a street view of this?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, let's just get, oh yeah, if you want to go ahead and do that now, yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
There's an existing building on the site. It's also been there quite some time. There is the existing house up on the hill. And this is an older picture, but where you see the cars is where the new proposed building is going to be. It will have grade retail space to be determined, obviously, and then 2 floors of residential above that, all on the street. And the access is a right-of-way to the right there that will lead behind the building and up into the parking lot.
Thank you. The driveway that exists right now, or the curb cut that exists right now to the left of the site, so sorry, Amelia, to go to the other side of it. Yeah. Is that proposed to close, or is that
Yes.
going to remain?
No, that will be gone.
Okay. Does anyone else have questions on the street view side before we flip back to the site plan? All right.
The little building to the,
Oh,
the little
think-
building, that little building to the left is that part of the property?
It is part of the property. It's all 80 Main Street. And that's the building right there.
That's staying there.
That's,
Right.
that's going to stay as it is, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Fischel, earlier you were talking about the changes in grade. One of the questions I have is about the accessibility of the public realm space. Is that accessible from the street, like such as from that existing curb cut area, or how can folks use that public realm space?
I discussed that with Steve earlier about how to do that. There's really, you can't create accessibility from the street without a ramp that's, 90 feet long. So we have where we have the handicap parking space there, and we've got a few of them. We are going to cut through the addition, the little addition that connects the existing residential, 100-year-old building with the new building, and we will put a ADA accessible pass-through there that will be on the same grade, so someone could, if needed, take a wheelchair and wheel through there. There will be doors, but the doors will be also accessible. They will be swing doors. They will never be locked. This will be a truly accessible way to get to that space, as it was very difficult to get that from the street up and meet ADA requirements.
But then how will, so I'm public. How do I get there again? Do I have to go into your private parking lot?
You would need to come into this parking lot. The grade change is so great here that if we went on a 1 in 12 grade for a ramp, which would be the requirement, that ramp would go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, basically eliminating anything but a ramp. So the only real way to do it, because of our grade concerns, is from the rear somehow. And so that's why we have come up with this idea. It will be signed as a public realm space. It will, act as a public realm space. So these are existing conditions that we're trying to work with. And I must say the new regulations don't really take into account existing conditions. And so we're trying to make it work.
You mentioned having signage to indicate the public realm space. Would that be from like where someone would enter on the street to indicate that, hey, and in order to reach this small park, come around the back of the building and there's an entrance? Would it be that type of wayfinding?
We would do whatever we needed to do to have a wayfinding to get to that space.
Okay. Thank you.
I wish it was an easy site. I really want an easy project.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch up here now that I can sort of see the drawings and looking at the memo. It says the application has been pending, but then it says as part of the prior approval. So can you just remind me, looking at the site plan, what was already approved and what do they want to do now?
Okay, so the approvals are
can you go back to the site plan, please?
the site plan is up. Can you see it?
Oh, sorry. That's me.
So,
yeah, got it. Thank you.
So I guess whoever got the cursor, Amelia, you have the cursor. This is existing over here. The north side, which would be the right side of this, that's an existing building, okay, and been approved. And this addition, the next one over, that's a 5-unit addition, existing and approved and CO'd. So really what this proposal is all about is this structure, which is on the street, which will not be similar to any other of the buildings on the street. And if anybody knows Main Street, they know that it's quite a mix of structures, bad architecture and good architecture. So this will be certainly, in my opinion, be better looking than most of the buildings on Main Street. But that's what this approval is all about, is that that building right there.
So that building doesn't have to be there to fix something with the other buildings. This is just totally brand new thing that you want to do, and it doesn't quite meet the requirements for public realm, perhaps, but it's completely secondary. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Fischel, are the properties behind on High Street, they're all private property? None of those driveways will connect with your property?
Correct. They're all private properties.
Is there a fence there? I know the condo building well, but I don't. It's
You know,
hard to see.
they are all under the same ownership, but they are separate properties, and they are private for those people that are living on High Street.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Fischel, did you have an opportunity to review the feedback from WPCA as it related to some of their concerns around discharge and drainage in the sewer lateral?
I believe we did. That was a project that the engineer was working on, and he was supposed to get us any reviews and approvals. I have not seen those, so they will.
Okay.
They will be done as required.
Great. Are there other questions for Mr. Fischel?
Michelle.
Fischel, yes, thank
Oh,
you.
Fischel, I am so sorry. My apologies,
Okay.
Fischel.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Are there any other questions?
Is there a rendering?
I have an elevation of each side of the building, have not done a rendering per se. And here we go. Here are the floor plans. There's the front of the building. These would be the sides. You can see the grade change, and this would be the rear. Now, what we've done to the rear is we've now added that little connection which has two doors in it, which connects over to the right. So that has been revised.
Is there something that shows us what the public realm space will look like?
I could take a photograph of it. I mean, it's an existing space right now. I mean, those two spaces which compile the overall public realm are existing spaces that have.
But they aren't existing public. Are they currently available to the public, or are they private?
They currently are. If the public would like to go visit, you're more than welcome.
But you haven't yet constructed the access that will be
Right.
shown.
Right. That'll be done when we get the approvals and permit for this building.
So
this street view.
it's the grass. Sorry, it's grass.
It's grass. Yep.
Okay, I apologize. Yeah.
Now, this is the rear, so this is from the parking lot, okay? So the front is, if we go back, thank you, Amelia. There you go.
So the retail space will not have any rear exterior egress or access because it's below grade.
Yes, exactly. If we go to the side elevation, you'll see how that, works, okay?
Mhm.
That immediately comes up, and we've got stairs that need to lead all the way up to that rear. I think it's 10 or 11 feet difference from the street to the rear grade.
And do you have any idea what type of retail tenants you're hoping to?
At this
attract?
point, we have no idea. I mean, and we realize that whoever goes in there will have to meet the parking requirements. So, we'll have to, once it's built and we talk to who may ever want to lease it, we'll figure that one out.
Okay. I'm just bringing this up because another application we have before us is having trouble with the fire codes. Are there any fire codes that say a public retail space has to have two entrances or exits?
If it's deeper than 75 feet, this is true, and this is not going to be deeper than 75 feet. So
Okay.
the
Thank
one
you.
entrance, and the building will be fully sprinklered.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Does staff have any comments on this application?
I think the public realm piece of it definitely needs to get modified. I think if you're inclined to go down the approval route, I think that's the big thing. There was just a couple small architectural items that I think are handled in the conditions that just need to get verified prior to issuing any permits. But I think coming up with a viable public realm plan is kind of key, and the access points are well taken.
By that, you mean the access points will work?
No, making sure they work is important. I haven't seen anything to, I theoretically what was discussed and proposed could work. I haven't seen anything to say, yeah, this would work, or what kind of problems it could create or impediments it could create.
Now, with the public realm space, is public realm space just grass? Or would they have to at least
typically there's a definition of public realm. Typically, that I'm thinking about other things you have approved it. There might be improvements within that could be benches, activity, sculpture, or something along those lines. And it's not necessarily just a lawn, but sometimes that could be part of it. But that's typically not the sole activity or sole use within that space.
It's hard for me to visualize. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, are you thinking of putting in any benches?
Oh, I think we would. Yeah, I think we would put in some benches, and the owner is great at landscaping. If anybody wants to go out there in the spring, obviously, because it looks pretty lousy right now, but in the spring and see how he maintains the property, it's much more than most do. So we will do whatever it takes to make that a public realm space.
So if we put in our conditions that you will include to the approval of staff, benches and other amenities to make the public realm space attractive.
I don't think the owner would have a problem with that.
Even with the building and the access point from the parking, which is in the back, it doesn't seem like public to me. And maybe it's because it's hard to visualize without like full renderings of everything. But I'm trying to figure out like how somebody would like decide to like walk up a driveway, go around the back of a building that, even though it's retail, there's no access to the retail back there, right? As Tammy was saying. So you're really just going around a building that you would have no need to access just to go onto this fenced off grass space that's 5 feet above the ground. Like,
actually, it's 10 feet above the street grade. So that would be a ramp of 100 feet long to be accessible. It would be.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there should be a ramp. I'm
Okay.
saying I'm not sure if this project really works.
Okay.
Question for you, Mr. Official. On the ADA side, I understand that there needs to be access that's ADA compliant. Does all access need to be ADA compliant, or can there be, say, a staircase on the street front in addition to the access from the rear where it's ADA compliant?
I would leave that up to the staff to,
Okay.
Because the definition is pretty light. Okay. So, and access to the public realm definition is pretty light. So I really think, it may go back in your court here to try to tell us what we should do.
Okay. Appreciate that. Go ahead, Tammy.
In this particular situation, I think this public realm idea just doesn't fit the property. And like Anna was suggesting, why would somebody who's just walking by on this street go up there? So I would make the suggestion that, Irving Farice Park is down the street. And if somebody's walking by and they want to sit in a green space, they can go to Farice Park. And that maybe we can ask the applicant, I appreciate their willingness to try to work with this public realm space, but maybe we just say, put in something, as much green space as you can to alleviate all of the other blacktop in the area, whether you want to call it a micro forest or whatever, dog amenity space, and let them not have to do the public realm space just because of the odd way this property has been developed. I mean, who's going to go back there? I think it's silly of us to think that people are going to off the street just walk up there and sit on some piece of grass, even if there's a wayfinding sign to get there.
Would be people in the neighborhood do it?
Why wouldn't they go to Farice Park? I don't know. I mean, make it green, sure, but it
Certainly the
seems-
people that live there will use the space, okay? So,
Yes.
and that's 24 units, I think. So that will get used by a public, not the public.
So by the people on the property, the private property.
I mean, if you look at the building that we approved the expansion of on the corner of North and High Street a couple of years ago, it's basically one big piece of blacktop and with this tiny bit of green space up on North Ave. And we didn't have this public realm space requirement then. But it doesn't, to me, it doesn't fit this property. So I would just make the suggestion that we call it something else and let the applicant try to improve the property.
Yeah, I don't know that we should necessarily exempt from the public realm space. But Steve, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to comment?
Yeah, unfortunately, you don't have the authority to exempt them from the public realm requirements. It's a standard. I will point out that there in the last item on your agenda is a discussion of some amendments to the regulations. And I think one of those amendments would address Ms. Langalis's statement about not requiring public realm under certain circumstances. I think this is a site where the public realm just doesn't make sense because of the topography itself. Having like some public realm space outside of retail establishments is a good thing to have seating areas, places for people to congregate. But in this instance, it might not work. Maybe they could get creative and put a staircase up from the street up there and then have the accessible path from the back with signage. Maybe that could work. Maybe there's like a neat little pocket park or something that could get created out of this. But I would say, regardless, I would say that we can fashion the condition to make sure that they comply. And if you do consider an amendment to not require that under certain circumstances, they can come back and get that particular provision removed and then follow the exemption route.
Thank you, Steve. Are there other comments or questions on this application? Are we ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Galen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Harvey. Ryan or Steve, do you want to pull up the resolution? Great.
Is that large enough? You guys need me to blow it up some more? Is that all right?
Or blow it up some more. Always blow it up some more.
So the yellow, I modified from what you saw previously based on just some of your comments during the discussion with the applicant.
I'm in support of that language. I'm not sure if you'd like to add something about staff approval, so they don't necessarily have to come in front of us for that. But I'm unsure how other people feel if they're okay with that as the condition.
Honestly, I don't like adding the idea of making a staircase, because then in the winter, they're gonna have to snow it. It becomes a liability. If people are gonna find their way up there, I think they should just find their way up there. I think it's highly unlikely. So why burden that language?
Yeah, I agree with Tammy.
Okay. Yeah, we can remove that. I don't think it necessarily would prohibit them from putting a staircase in if they so desire, but we can take that away as like a
Right.
point of direction. Yep.
Yeah,
So if they wish to do that. Yeah.
right, if they
Right.
want to, they're welcome to, but why?
So Tammy, I mean, having a pedestrian walkway from the street is not a bad idea.
As in a staircase, JJ, is that what you mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
What about just sort of a sidewalk? It might not, I mean, the topography is difficult. I don't know if it should
Yeah.
be a sidewalk or staircase, and I would let them decide. how.
I was thinking it would encourage exploration of the neighborhood. If you're always in your car driving places, you don't really know what's the new restaurant down the street unless you're actually walking and taking advantage. So I think having stairs as a pathway to this new development would be great, not just for the residents, but other neighbors.
Okay. I
Just-
don't disagree that it's nice for people to have different ways, but I feel like when you put staircase, it's sort of, I don't
I
know
can
if
hit
that's the way to
undo
get
and
there.
redo
I
button
mean,
no matter what
you know,
So I see this as us, providing some guidance to the applicant and staff on, the types of things we may want to see. But if the commission's comfortable with it, we can modify this condition to say, to work with staff on this, and
Potentially,
between the
possibly.
applicant and staff can then identify what works best for this site and what the applicant is comfortable in doing and how they want to present this to the public. I like the word potentially.
good.
Thank you.
Steve, do you mind adding something about them working with you and your team?
Sure.
Yeah. Great. Do you mind adding a condition maybe similar to number 8 about addressing the WPCA concerns and sign off? Or is that covered under the all department sign offs?
Yeah, but I'll add WPCA.
Okay, great. Yep. Just because I saw that they had a number of items they wanted to address, and it sounds like the applicant is working to address those. Any other comments or modifications to this resolution? All right, Anna is seated for this resolution. Steve, do you mind calling the roll?
Sure. Mr. Schulman,
Yes.
Ms. Langalis,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Cantor,
Yes.
Ms. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Rowena,
Yes.
Ms. Topachnik,
No.
and Mr. Bryce.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, and Ms. Jordan Byron. I didn't.
Yes.
Okay. 8-1.
Yep, it carries. Thank you, Mr. Fischel. I appreciate your time tonight and your application.
No problem. Happy New Year to you all.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Our next application is 2025-79 site plan review for 101-201 Merit 7. They've asked for a continuance to our next meeting, so they will be on our January 21st meeting. So next we will move to our public hearings. Our first public hearing is 2025-77. subdivision for 210 Richards Ave, proposed 3-lot subdivision, public hearing, report, and recommended action. I see we have some members of the public here with us tonight. We will have the applicant present first and share information about their application. The commission will then have an opportunity to ask questions and discuss with the applicant. At that point, we'll then ask the public to comment and ask for you to speak. You'll have one opportunity to speak, and it's a chance for you to ask all your questions. And at the end of everyone speaking, the applicant will have a opportunity to respond. So with that, who tonight is representing 210 Richards Ave?
Alexandra Mock.
Hi, Ms. Mock. Would you like to present this application?
Of course. I will show my screen. Yeah. Good evening. My name is Alexandra Mock. I'm a environmental consultant, and tonight I'm going to be presenting to you two-lot subdivision. Here's the bird view of the site. I like to see everything in the content of the neighborhood and also just see how the site is being maintained currently. This is 1.572 acre site. And as you can see, is outlined here in red, showing the property lines. This is Richards Avenue. And I also added in this little circle an image from 2012, which kind of explains how this area looked like. So this little pointer here, or the marker, is at the same location at the area photo taken in 2025 and also 2012. So in 2012, you can see that there's potentially a single family residence with some sorts of structure behind. Also, there's an evidence that there was a structure over here, which was probably an accessory building. And currently at the site, there is a pit here, which I'm not sure what the purpose of it was, but it doesn't look on the old area photos that this was supporting some sort of foundation. Currently, the area, the southern portion of the property is maintained as a meadow. The meadow is mostly developed with invasive species, actually, or dominated with invasive species, which is not a good thing for the environment. The northern portion maintains some fragments of the original forest, but the understory growth is dominated also by invasive shrubs. So this is basically how the property is looking today. And what we are proposing is 3-lot subdivision out of this area. And you can see that because we have 3 lots, we are going to be installing a road. This is the outline of the road. This is going to be a Lauren Court, and we're going to have 3 lots, 1 lot, middle lot, and the 3rd lot. Lot number 1 is going to be 0.31 acres. The middle one, which is lot 2, is going to be 0.339 acres. And then we have the last lot, which is lot number 3, 0.488 acres. Here's the design of the subdivision. You can see the road over here along the side. We have a sidewalk around it, and then we have a retaining wall, which kind of varies in the height, but it's not taller than 5.5 feet. Underneath, we have concrete galleries, which are going to be used for the stormwater detention to mitigate for the area of the blacktop, which is not pervious. We have lot number 1, which is being developed with a residence. This is going to be a single family residence. The same footprint is, or similar one, it's shown on lot number 2 and 3. I did measure the footprint of the residence. I'm not sure how much of it or whether or not this is going to be entirely livable space, but it's exactly.
Yes, I am.
Oh, Nick, we can hear you. Yep.
Oh, I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
please continue.
I thought someone had a question. So it's going to be 2,000 square feet. This is the outline of the first floor, and there's going to be a second floor. Each residence is going to have a driveway from the road, and then each of them is going to be having stormwater management system, which is going to be mitigating for the area of the impervious surface, which is being created by a house, a driveway, and there's a little porch here and the access which each of those houses have. We are utilizing the cul-de-sac, which is actually, this is a street here, which is Coventry Place. You can see a little cul-de-sac in the corner of the slide, and we have an easement here, and we are going to be utilizing this easement to connect our utilities to the existing facilities at the street. Here's a little close-up of how Lauren Court is going to be meeting Richard Street, and you can see that the existing sidewalk is going to continue across, and there's going to be a crossing. Also, there's going to be a stop sign, and here's going to be our sidewalk for the new street. And here you have a fragment of the retaining wall, which is going to be on one side of the road. Here are the erosion controls during the construction of the houses, and you can see in orange that each of them has a silt fence surrounding the area downslope, and also stockpile area with the silt fence. There's a silt fence running down along the retaining wall, and also we have one here which is kind of running along the easement. This one is actually upslope, so it's not really needed, but I thought that would be important to have it because we would like to highlight the edge of the easement, so there will be no encroachments made during the installation of the utilities. And each of the lots, similar as the last one, has a silt fence along the perimeter and downslope, stockpile area, and then there's an anti-tracking pad at the construction access. The anti-tracking pad is going to be used to prevent tracking of the sediment from the construction site on the road, and also we're going to be protecting the catch basin during the construction, which is located along Richards Avenue. There's a landscaping plan which shows where street trees are going to be located. The chosen tree is Eastern Redbud. This is a tree which actually is very pretty and very attractive. In the spring, it has beautiful pink flowers. It's really good for pollinators, and then has a really nice foliage during the growing season. And it is a really good street trees for the purpose of shade and habitat. And I can only imagine that each residence is going to have their own landscaping plan, including the foundation planting and most likely hedges, which are going to be separating each lot from each other and provide some privacy. This is all I have to say. Tonight with me is Wayne DeBenzo from Fairfield County Engineering, and he's the one who designed the drainage plan and all the utilities. If you have any questions, he's here to answer them. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yes, I'd love to see an artist rendering.
Oh, I don't believe we have one, but we'll be happy to prepare one, which when we're going to be more focusing on each residence. That's what we're asking about, how the residents are going to look like.
Yes, and how many bedrooms are all three residents going to be the same square footage?
Maybe Wayne can answer this question since And I
yes, so-
believe that the owner also is here with us tonight.
Yes, Wayne Devanzo, Fairfield County Engineering. Yes, they are all the same. For now, that they are all the same footprint, the same design for each residence. I'm not sure how many bedrooms they are. Maybe Ed can answer that. I'm not sure.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. Yes, so the homes are gonna be 3 bedroom, 2 baths, roughly 3,000 square feet. So I'm doing a similar project on Philo Street, and they'll kind of look similar to that project. I don't have pictures I can share right now, but they're gonna be really nice homes. I can share some renderings maybe later on in the month. I can get something done of the whole site plan to kind of as like a bit of marketing I can share with you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure that we should withhold or continue this application just to see the renderings, but would love to see that generally. Are there other comments or questions for the applicant?
Yes, question, Chapin.
Please.
Thank you. I'm not sure who to address this to, Ms. Mock or one of the other applicants, but the house that's on facing Richards and then the second one in the middle lot, I guess, the two structures seem particularly close together relative to the amount of open space on the property at the top of the cul-de-sac. Is it just meeting the requirements of the setbacks? Is that sort of where you had to put it?
Yes, that really is what drove that, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You may also have already answered this and I missed it, are you complying with the suggestions from TMP?
Yes, the last round of revisions did respond to the TMP comments and the DPW comments as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, one more quick question. Do these houses all have full basements?
Yeah,
we
yes,
do
they
that.
do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the applicant before we go to public comment? All right, I'll note that Diana is seated for this application as we're alternating. With that, we will now go to public comment. I'd like to remind everyone that you only have one chance to speak. And while there's no limit on your time, we ask you to be concise. So this ensures that your points are not lost and others also have time to speak tonight. This portion is not a dialogue. The applicant will respond to all the comments at the very end. We ask that you are polite and that you start with your full name and address. Brian, do you mind sharing how folks can participate in the public comment for this application?
Sure. So if anyone would like to speak regarding this application, you can use the raise your hand tool. It's at the bottom of your screen. You click that once. And if you're dialed in on a phone, you can hit *9. My assumption is none of the folks from the public are interested in speaking on this one.
I think that's fair. So with that, we'll close the public participation portion. I'll turn it back to the applicant if you guys have any additional comments that you'd like to make about the application.
Not at this point, but we're here to answer questions.
Thank you. Are there any other?
I would just for the record note that the stormwater management requirements of the city are met with the design for each of the lots and also for the roadway itself.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments before I ask for a motion? All right, is there a motion for this application?
I'll move.
Thank you. Is that a move to approve?
Yes.
Wonderful. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Galen. Brian, do you mind pulling up the resolution?
Sure. I just flagged, I highlighted them later on, a couple changes that I just made as part of this. So 8 is just related to the process of going about bonds. That's what section 3.4.1 of the Norwalk subdivision regulations are related to, especially since there's a new street being proposed. Pretty important.
That's acceptable to me.
Okay. And then again, just kind of reiterating that all procedural requirements. So this is just sections of the subdivision regs related to filing the Mylar map on the land records and how bond processing works, and then updating the effective date.
Also acceptable.
Great. Galen, are you also okay with these modifications?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
How accommodating everyone is.
Yes.
Are there any comments or modifications to this resolution? Wonderful. Brian, do you mind calling the roll?
Certainly. Ms. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Rowena?
Yes.
Mr. Cantor? Ms. Lankowski?
Yes.
Ms. Langalis?
Yes.
Mr. Schulman?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan Byron?
Yes.
And Mr. Bryce?
Yes. And Mr. Jones?
Oh.
Yep.
I know I missed somebody. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's
Apologies.
unanimous. Yes. Thank you for your presentation tonight.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Our next application is also a public hearing. It is a 2025-86 special permit, the Mid Fairfield AIDS Project, 9 Moore Place. Special permit application for a boarding or rooming house use, public hearing, report, and recommended action. For those from the public who are interested in speaking on this application, you'll have an opportunity to Zoom, similar to the same structure that we had for 210 Richards Ave. With that, who is here representing 9 Moore Place?
Stuart Lane, the Executive Director of Mid Fairfield AIDS Project.
Good evening, Mr. Lane. Do you mind presenting your application?
Sure, no, not at all. First, I'd like to really thank Steve Kleppen and Brian Baker. I appeared in front of your group about, I think, 5 or 6 months ago for kind of the same situation with another building that we have. And they've been just terrific and really helpful. And I really want to thank all of you too. You know, people don't realize what it's like to be a volunteer and to do things like this, take up your time, work at night, and when you're working your regular jobs. And it's just because of the nonprofit I run, I really appreciate it because I know what goes into it. So I wanted to thank you for that. 9 Moore Place is, so Mid Fairfield AIDS Project has been a nonprofit that started out as an AIDS service organization back in the 80s. And I was, believe it or not, the executive director then. I've been running the company for 37 years. And I was young then, and I'm pretty old now. But we've over the years, we've, figured out that, HIV became a curable, not curable, but treatable disease. And so the funding had really diminished. So we branched out to housing, and we have other programs as well. 9 Moore Place we purchased 14 years ago, and it's a transitional housing program. It's in terms of zoning, it is a two-family building that had 4 unrelated on each floor, and we were able to use that to start a program that was for homeless, disabled people that had to pay rent, $300 a month, and had to do certain things. It's a sober house, so they can't use drugs or alcohol. And the point was to get them in there, take them off the streets, get them in there, help them relearn or learn for the first time the skills they need to not end up back on the street or in homelessness. A lot of it is also financial, so we help them with we work with the Open Door Shelter for their employment programs, and Ability Beyond also does employment programs. So we try and get them more income so that eventually they can move out. They have 2 to 3 years to live there, and we try and apply for any kind of housing voucher that is offered by 211 or anywhere in the state, so that eventually they will move out of Moore Place, free up a room for someone else, and hopefully live happily ever after. And our rate of moving people out into independent living has been 80%. In the last year and a half, we've moved, I think, 12 people into a subsidized situation where they pay part of the rent and they get some of it subsidized. Because a lot of our clients, as you know, the rents are sky high and they'll never make enough money to pay those rents. So that's really the crux of the program. And what's happening now is the state of Connecticut Department of Housing recently purchased the neighboring property. And that's what I was here in front of you a few months ago. So we now have, instead of just 9 Moore Place, we now have 3 houses on the same property. So it's like a compound. And they purchased that for us. And they're also committed to putting in the money to renovate all 3 houses because they are, in pretty bad shape. The house at 9 Moore, which we've operated for 14 years, is actually in pretty good shape, but the other 2 are pretty bad. So in order to be able to do any work on the house, because the zoning rules and regulations have changed, as you know, we cannot do it unless we got a special permit that would enable us to do construction or do whatever we needed to fix the place up and to utilize the funding coming in from Hartford, basically. So in order to do that, we are applying for a rooming house permit. Moore Place and our program is not a rooming house. It's a housing program, a sober housing program that has these other pieces involved in it. So, because of the zoning situation, we applied for the rooming house permit, and that enables us to make any physical changes to the property. We have lots of other programs at Mid-Fairfield AIDS Project. We're at 618 West Avenue, and we've been here for 37 years. And Norwalk's been really good to us. I live in Norwalk for the last 30 years, and I'm pretty happy here, both working and living. So that's pretty much the program. I don't know if I missed any pieces, but if you have any questions, definitely ask them.
Mr. Lane, is it fair to characterize your program as serving formerly homeless people who also happen to have AIDS?
No, it's serving. The problem is that we're called Mid-Fairfield AIDS Project, and that's back from 1980. We tried to change it to MFAP, and that is also the name, but a lot of people have that misnomer, and so we try and get information out there. It's to serve people that are homeless or in danger of becoming homeless that have any disability. So the disability can be HIV, substance abuse, mental illness, SSI, SSDI, and those are pretty much the categories that we take people in for.
Okay, thank you.
We definitely have some of each. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to live there. That's an AIDS house, and a lot of people aren't educated. They don't realize that there's a functional cure, and it's not in any way, pass it on. It's not contagious, but we have to educate people, and then they're like, oh, okay, so they try it. But what's more of a deterrent is really the fact that it's a sober house. And a lot of people that, a lot of the people out that are homeless because of their substance abuse and their alcoholism, and other things as well, obviously. But some people just don't want to make the change. And so they're not appropriate yet. I mean, we'll take people that are, 10 days sober and give them a shot. But if they really have no interest in trying to make that change, we can't bring someone that's like that in with 7, 8 other people that are trying to stay clean and sober. That's a recipe for disaster.
So what is the rotation of your residents?
In terms of numbers,
Mm-hmm.
So they can stay for 24 to 30 months. If someone's in there for that period of time and they have doing all the right things, but they have not been, we have not been able to secure affordable housing for them, we will not discharge them into the street ever. And we will not discharge them into a shelter. We will keep working until we find an independent living situation that they can manage. They have to do their part, and we do our part. And I have to say that that 3-year period is usually enough to get them some kind of subsidy because. With the rents, we have a 1-bedroom going for $2,500 on average. What my clients are making, $15 to $20 an hour. That's not going to do it. So we apply for subsidies when they come out. 211 sends out every time there's an opening anywhere in the state, they send out an email saying, "Oh, Wallingford is opening their Section 8 list," or Stanford's open, Charter Oak is opening their public housing list. So then we will apply for the patient, for the clients, and most of the time they get to the top of a list somewhere. And some people, it's like in Torrington, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to move to Torrington," but that's gold. If you get any kind of subsidy, that's gold. And so they'll move there, and then they inevitably, call us up 3 months later and say, "Wow, this is great. I'm so glad I did this." So, it's not always a rosy, we do discharge people. If they are, we work a lot with the police, and they know what we're doing there. And if we have a client that is really causing trouble and we tell them, you're going to have to leave, and they won't leave and stuff like that, we work with the police, come in and help us, escort them out. And we will put them into like the Bridgeport Rescue Mission or the Open Door Shelter if there's a spot. Because we're not going to jeopardize the other 8 people in the house.
So
it takes a lot to get discharged. It really does. But, it's part of the disease.
Is there an agency referring residents to your facility?
Is what agency?
Is there a particular agency?
We get referrals from Open Door Shelter, Gillespie House, which is in Westport with Homes with Hope. They have a shelter there. Some come from Bridgeport, from Prospect, and definitely some come from Pacific House in Stamford. And then some individual, like there's programs that we don't even hear of that suddenly have found out about us because it's on our website and it explains it all, and they put in an application and we interview the person. We have to make sure that the person is at least appropriate for the house.
They don't have to come from the CAN list?
They do not, because we have no funding. We have no funding from HUD or any other government agency. And therefore they don't have to. And at first that was like, oh, what are we going to do? So we funded ourselves with fundraising and the $300 a month that they pay. And, it's we have a mortgage, which is not normal for this kind of thing, but it's worked out really well. And now that DOH, so I don't know if you've heard, but there's a huge change with the HUD grant, this Continuum of Care grant, and what the administration wants. They no longer want permanent supportive housing. They want transitional. So for 14 years, we've been, oh, no one will fund us because we're transitional. And transitional was a dirty word. Now we're like, the star, because transitional is what they want. So we expect to be able to get funding to help the fact that we now have 3 houses. So the 8 to 10 rooms that we have at Ninemore Place, and that's what we're applying for just for the permit for that house. A few months ago, you approved the same thing for the next door on that compound, the 2 houses at Sevenmore. And the Department of Housing is really likes the program. And, it's like you can't just keep, this is my opinion, you can't just keep putting people into housing and put everyone into housing and think we're going to be able to pay for that for the rest of their lives. I mean, it's just, it's not doable. But if you take the elderly and the really disabled, they definitely need it. And then the other people that we serve, we work with them to try and get them into a situation that's no longer, a drain on the little money that we all have. So it's worked out well. It's worked out very well.
Mr. Lane, for this application, this is proposing only interior renovations to the building, right? The building footprint isn't changing.
No, the footprint's not changing.
Nick.
Thanks, Chapin. First, Mr. Lane, thank you for the thanks, but also thank you for the work you do. This is hard work on the for you as well, and I appreciate your efforts in there. And then a pitch: if folks have not gone to one of their bingo events, ton of fun. Monthly, is it monthly now or bi-monthly?
Well,
It's getting more
it's
and more
actually
frequent.
bi-monthly, but this year we're going to do just 4, so it'll be every quarter.
Even better. But anyway, highly recommend folks attend one of those fundraising events.
Are there other questions for Mr. Lane before we open it up to the public? All right, Mr. Lane, do you have anything else before we ask for public comment?
No, I did go on, so I think you've heard enough from me.
Well, I appreciate your what you've shared tonight. Thank you. We'll move to the public participation portion. As stated before, you only have one opportunity to speak. And while there's no limit on how long you may speak, we ask that you are concise. This ensures that your points are not lost and others have time to speak. This is not a dialogue, and the applicant will have a chance to respond to all the comments at the end. We ask that you are polite and that you start with your full name and address. Brian, do you mind sharing how folks can participate?
Sure. So if anyone would like to speak regarding this application, you can use the raise your hand tool. It's located at the bottom of your screen. And you click that once. And if you're dialed in on a phone, you would hit *9. Similar to the last one, I'm not expecting any folks on to be speaking for this one.
Well, I appreciate members of the public who've joined us live to listen in. Thank you for doing so. With that, we'll close the public participation portion. Mr. Lane, do you have any comments before we move to a vote?
I don't. I just appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you. Same here. Are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Lane? Does staff have any questions or comments that they want to raise?
No, I mean, in my opinion, this one was pretty straightforward. Like Mr. Lane said, he's been pretty much operating this one for some time under the two-family house designation. Not that that's a violation. He was doing that legally. So this is just a way for him to properly have the use be changed and have some access to some additional funding, which should help out.
Great. Is there a motion for this application?
Motion to approve.
Looks like Anna moved and Harvey seconded. Diana is seated for this application. Right? No, Anna is. I'm sorry. We had one application between this. I apologize. Brian, do you mind bringing up the resolution? All right. Are there any comments or modifications to the resolution? Hearing none. Brian, do you mind calling the roll?
Sure. Mr. Schulman,
Yes.
Ms. Langalis,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Cantor,
Technically, yes.
Ms. Wells. That's a yes.
Yes.
Ms. Tabashnik,
Yes.
Mr. Rowena,
Yes.
Ms. Jordan Byron,
Yes.
and Mr. Bryce.
Yes,
That's unanimous.
it is unanimous. Thank you for your presentation tonight, Mr. Lane, and for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Our next item on the agenda is discussion of additional zoning regulation changes. Brian, Steve, do one of you want to pull up and share? Thank you, Steve. You're muted if you're talking.
Thank you. Yes.
Of course.
After 8 years of doing this, you figured you'd learn when to mute and when not to mute. So anyway. So the first set of changes are really dealing with ADU limitations in and around particularly the detached ADUs. So there are a few that were yellow highlighted. Those are ones where Brian and I do not agree. So we're said we'll leave it up to you and we'll stop arguing about it. But I'm happy to just scroll down through and you guys can stop and discuss, debate, however you want to proceed.
One thing I'd like to call out for the ADU piece is before we get to the the referral side, I think it might make sense to have the ADU separate from the other items that you've identified here as a referral and thing that we vote on when it becomes a resolution. I don't know if others feel strongly about that, but I thought that might be useful.
Yeah, we can separate them out too, I think. And there's some other once we get through this piece, there was something else related to ADUs that I wanted to bring up as well. So that might make sense to keep it separate regardless.
Great.
Steve, what is the other option on 4?
So 4 really relates to, and it's really an aesthetic thing, is that do you want in thinking about more like traditional layout of single family neighborhoods, if they had an ADU, do you want that ADU to be behind the principal house? Or Brian and I were talking about, are there circumstances maybe where you could have it, allowing it in the side yards? The way the zoning regulations define the rear yard, it's the front setback plus 20 feet. So technically that might prohibit it in the side yard. So we might, as we were talking about, as a compromise, saying, all right, well, what if as long as it's not in front of the main dwelling, unless there's some extreme circumstances where the existing single family house is located way to the rear of the property, where it really doesn't make sense or it couldn't work. And I think I sent out an email from a resident that was looking at an ADU, and they had a lot that really wouldn't afford them the ability to put that in the rear. And there were some topographic challenges that might make it difficult. So that's kind of why it's highlighted, just kind of to get where you guys are at with that particular provision.
So like in this, so number 4 and number 6, obviously they conflict with each other. So it's trying to get like your thoughts on what an appropriate front yard setback is for a detached ADU.
Is the issue here only front yard setback, or is it also side setback?
It's usually not side, because side we use the accessory structure setbacks, which if they're not the exact same as the principal structure setbacks, they're less. So usually the side and the rear setbacks aren't the issue, it's the front. As the regs are written now, like Steve said, you have to take the front yard setback and then add 20 to it, and then 20 feet, and then that's where you can start constructing the ADU. So in that email that Steve had sent, from the Ackerts, they had a scenario where it'd be difficult for them to meet that requirement, but they could locate the ADU essentially directly next to their home, which whether that's a big deal or not is up to you. So kind of trying to see if there's wiggle room on that.
I mean, to me, it's no different than having a garage on the same sight line, either the same setback, right? Like a garage doesn't have to be 20 feet behind the house, right?
Technically, a detached one would.
Well, that's silly. But what about an attached? Or I guess
Attached would. So attached, you could go directly in the same setbacks as
Gotcha. So the thing here is the detached nature.
Right.
Well, what if somebody, we set the standard, like anything, and we say, okay, we want to have these setbacks, but that applicant that came before us that now is not before us, I think was a really interesting sort of test of the ADU. And can we take them on a case-by-case basis? Can we approve one-offs, in other words, as opposed to changing the whole regulation, or would they need to go to the ZBA?
The idea, I think the general push is to try to make the ADU process as simple as possible. So anytime you require them to go to the ZBA or even to you guys for a site plan approval or a special permit, it adds time and cost to that. So that's what we're trying to avoid whenever possible. Now, there definitely could be like lots and circumstances where no matter how we craft this regulation, it might not work on that property. So they might need to go to get a variance anyway. I don't think we'll ever be able to write this perfect regulation to deal with every lot scenario. We're trying to make it as easy as possible, but I do think getting rid of that, working around that 20-foot additional requirement could address some of these. And I'll jump to the size one is the other piece of it too, because in that example those folks shared, if you and personally I don't have a big problem with it, but when you were looking at that aerial image, it almost looked like two single family houses on that single lot. Because if you put a 2-car garage next to the ADU, then you're just talking about a pretty big building at that point. So I think those are some of the things you just need to weigh. And I don't think you necessarily have to have an answer for it tonight, because we can keep this on a separate track and bring it back next month to discuss it again. You want to digest it a little bit more, just kind of things to think about. And it's like, what are the unintended consequences about what you approve?
But Steve, to also play devil's advocate a little bit, if I was to, I guess it's a detached versus attached is the thing here. Like if I put a shed next to my house, that's not a size of a garage per se. Like, does that also require the 20-foot setback?
Yeah, it would still have to be in the rear yard, which is the front setback plus the 20. And again, I think, and Brian, tell me if you disagree, but I'm fine saying not having that 20-foot. So as long as it's not my personal take is, as long as it's not in advance of the front wall of the building. So however we word that, I think
that seems.
Yeah, I think that's
very
different.
sensible.
I think that was the original intent of that reg was, we don't want you to put a detached ADU directly in front of your house.
Right.
But
right.
if
I
it's
remember that.
next to
that's
your
where
house,
that's where I would put a detached ADU on my house, but that's where I have the room for it. But it's okay, everyone. I'm not doing that yet.
Yeah, I think like next to the house isn't necessarily a big deal.
Well, do we take into consideration the frontage of a property? I mean, look at the applicant that just came before us tonight, for example. They're putting 3 properties there, and the last one, the one furthest in, had the 0.44, I believe, acres. I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe they're going to want to put an ADU in that side yard because it's sort of the same confirmation as the applicant that withdrew. And would we allow them to do that? And does it, does frontage, not so much setback, but the amount of frontage that a property has, have any bearing?
It could, based on, like if you think back to that other image that I sent with the other email, if you have that lot got skinny on one end, so that they may have plenty of frontage, but if it's very narrow, that's going to shrink that window where they can actually locate a building within that. Also, that was on that subdivision too, is where you had made the comment about how close the two proposed structures were. That's just basically the building envelopes on both those sites kind of shifted those if they're going to try to maximize the footprint, that's how they maximize the footprint.
Looking at the image that you had shared, how would we measure the advance of the front wall when it's like side by side especially on a curve like that? Would it be distance to the curve? Like, does it just become?
Yeah, and
Okay.
that was as soon as I saw that image and I was thinking about that, I was like, I don't know how to write a rule to deal with that, just because you measure the setback on an arc, and the arc might end up with the accessory building technically being closer to the setback to the property line than the principal building, just because of the arc and where the existing structure set. So again, I don't know if I can write the perfect regulation to deal with this, maybe, but definitely want to get your feedback, and that might help us move it in one direction or the other.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, looking at this plan as a hypothetical, it stands out to me as one that seems like it's well placed on the site and would fit on this site. I wonder if, because with ADUs, they are site plan reviews right now. Is that right?
Yep, detached. Yep.
Okay. If there was a proposal in front of us, and this I think goes to what I believe Tammy was saying before, if there's one that comes in front of us that where the building's not placed in a way that is congruent with how we see the ADU regulation, we have jurisdiction within the site plan approval to say that this doesn't meet the guidelines, or do we need to be more firm in the wording in order to Steve, I guess I'm looking at this in a different way from what you had just said, of like, how do we word this properly? I'm wondering if wording more generously gives us the ability to ward off problems.
I don't. At that point, I would think the site plan wouldn't be the best legal remedy, because technically, site plan is, if it complies, you have to approve it.
Right. Yep.
So that's why you have standards that are pretty cut and dry, and then that way, okay, yes, check, it's done. The special permit, but that makes it a little more onerous. It gives you more flexibilities where you could write, where you could write standards that to if you had properties that weren't conventional or there were unique circumstances, you could write the special permit language to give them the ability to come and seek relief from you for that, as opposed to going to the ZBA for a variance.
Sure. Okay.
So, Steve, what if would you ever write language that says sort of for conventional properties, the ADU has to be behind the house? For unconventional, however you want to define it, the ADU has to be set back a little bit from the primary structure, but maybe you add language that it can't be larger than X. And I know some of the dialogue that we're looking at was changing the living space from 700 square feet to 1,000 square feet. And I think maybe a size adjustment might make people feel a little bit more comfortable with a smaller size, with allowing something like that, where the larger size would have to conform to go behind. Or do you see what I'm?
I'm almost thinking, now that you brought up like the minimum frontage requirement, that might be a good way to go about it. Since, for example, in the email from the Ackerts plan, I'm assuming they have at least 100 feet of frontage, and they're in a zone that requires at least 100 feet of frontage. And I don't know if it's just easier to use, not necessarily the zone, because you might have smaller zones that have the 100 feet of frontage, but wouldn't be in, are in a smaller zone. if that 100 feet might be just the number. If you have 100 feet, then you could go next to, and if you don't, then it goes to the rear.
Yeah, I mean,
something like that.
we could definitely put a kind of like a different menu of options together of language that to look at based on the width of the lot, based on whether it conforms. If the lot width is more than 25% greater than the minimum, you get to do that. Yeah, along those same lines, I think we could definitely come up with something.
But I like the angle of making it easier to build ADUs. Like, I feel like that's the general arc here, and that makes sense to me.
I
agree with that.
apologize. I have to jump off. Good night,
Okay.
everybody.
Thank you, Anna. Have a good night. To build off what Nick was saying, something I was reflecting on as I was reading this was our past few ADU applications that have come in front of us have been quite uneventful. Like, I don't think we've had much for any of questions and have approved them. I wonder, Steve, if maybe as you're putting together that menu of options, maybe we look at taking the language we have today and making that by right. And then maybe some of these adjustments here remain as site plan or special permit as we see fit. But wanted to propose that as an option, as I've seen more of these as very quick applications as they come in front of us, and would love to, as Nick said, streamline this a bit more and see how we can encourage more of that development.
Yeah, I think that's a good track to take. Right. Keep going down.
I didn't understand that last exchange.
Oh.
So are you saying that the site plan review should remain in or out?
Yeah, so to restate, sorry about that. To restate, the last few ADU applications we've had have been approved without much comment or question. I'm proposing that we take the language we have today and make those by right instead of site plan. And then tweaks that we're talking about here on changing its size or where it can be placed, maybe that becomes the new site plan standard.
Yeah, I guess I must be going deaf. I'm not understanding this, what you're
So-
proposing.
So I think the basic premise would be if the proposed ADU meets all the setbacks, the heights, correct me if you were thinking something different, Shapen. If it's 700 square feet or less, that can be approved with a zoning permit. If you want to make it greater than 700, but say less than 1,000 or located in a different location, then that has to go to the commission for approval.
Okay.
And
I
more
understand.
than likely, I would guess based on how intricate the language gets, special permit would probably be more appropriate, but until we come up with a final version, it's hard to say for sure.
Well, as I know many of you that were on the commission when this happened, it was kind of a lively discussion that night about ADUs, as I recall. And my primary concern was the ability to construct another residence on a single-family lot and not having your next door neighbor know about it until the construction starts. So if we're going to eliminate the need for a site plan review in favor of making it cheaper and easier for people to do this, how much of a hassle would it be to require as part of the zoning application proof of mailing of notice that you're doing this 2 weeks ahead of the application?
Do you have to give notice to your neighbor if you build a garage?
A garage is not the same as another residence.
Well, that's another building. I mean,
But it's not the same as another residence.
Well,
The garage is going to take care of the 2 cars or whatever that the owners of the property have, and that's what's going to go in and out. Another residence is going to have probably 2 people in it going in and out, in addition to the people that already live there. So I don't think it's the same at all.
I'd have to check with Corporation Counsel if as part of a zoning permit, we could require notice to the neighbors. I don't know if that's something we can.
You know, I was listening to the first part of what Chapin said. I was able to hear him. And I agree that the applications that have come before us on the detached ADUs have been non-events. And I don't know whether I'm right on this, but I'm pretty sure that we haven't seen any applications for detached ADUs that were presented by an attorney. So if somebody is going to file an app, I'm presuming that the zoning department would still require a survey with a location and all of that, correct?
Yes.
And, you know, if you're not going to have an attorney make a presentation, the survey is generally the most expensive part of what you're doing. So I'm not exactly sure what the big savings in time and money is by eliminating the requirement for some type of a public hearing requiring notice, whether it's a site plan review or special permit. But that's my opinion.
It saves
Sure.
it saves us time and effort. There's no question.
I'm sorry, Galen, I can't hear you.
It saves us time, if for nothing else.
Well, I mean, it's kind of our job.
Well,
Sure.
yeah, but we at this point adding, you know, we have a lot that we are managing here, and anything we can handle over the counter adequately, I think we should handle over the counter.
Yeah, well, see, I look at it a little differently. I feel like it's our job to, you know, protect the citizens of Norwalk. And I know that I am probably the only one that thinks that way in terms of building another building on on your property, but that's my feeling.
Right.
And as was pointed out, we didn't exactly spend hours on these ADU. We probably spent more time discussing this tonight than we did on any of the applications. So,
yep.
Yeah, I agree with you, Richard. I mean, I don't think it's that onerous. If somebody's going to spend the money and the time to build a structure on their property, to be delayed 2 weeks is really not onerous.
Sure. Although,
oh, sorry,
go ahead, Brian. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
The only onerous thing that could happen is if somebody wants to build an ADU and happens to live next to a condo complex, and then have to send out neighbor notifications to like 80 condo complex owners.
I thought they only had to send it to the association.
We
changed it to require each condo owner has to be
To
notified.
each.
Yep. And I think there was an issue with a condo association that was a boat club or a beach club. And
we can now make an exemption for if you're doing ADUs, you just have to do the association, and everyone wins.
There you go.
The thing
yeah,
is, I think it's discouraging to people when they think, oh, not only do I have to get a survey, but I've got to, you know, go before the zoning commission. That's something that people are really unfamiliar with, and it's a discouraging element.
Well, all the pro ses I've seen before us seem to have enjoyed it very much.
Well, that's so sure.
Especially when they get a win.
Right. I don't think, Galen, I hear what you're saying, but if a homeowner is going to make a decision about adding a structure to their property, it's not like they're going to Home Depot and buying a shed and getting a permit from City Hall. It's a different thing. They have to hook up utilities, water, everything. So it is a big decision, and it's not something I think that the average homeowner would take lightly if they are starting from scratch. If you're converting your garage apartment to an ADU, that is a much easier process. But if you're going to build a house, regardless of, 700 square feet or 1,000 square feet, that's a big decision. You have to get an architect. You're spending money. So to come to planning and zoning, I don't think that is really a big deal.
Tammy, am I hearing sorry, real quick, Galen. Tammy, am I hearing that your concern is mostly around the detached component? What would you think about having the attached by right, since there isn't that change to the footprint? There's not a new structure going in, et cetera.
Yeah, I
think
think
that
that's a good idea. There's a very distinct difference between converting part of an existing house into an ADU versus creating a new structure on a property.
I think that's as of right now, though.
Oh, great. Okay.
You know, this has been going on for quite a while, and this is very similar to the discussion we had when this first came up. I think Steve and Brian understand what they've heard from us. I'd like them to come back to us with what they, how they interpret the conversation we've just had, rather than continuing the conversation, which at this point is really just going around in circles.
Yeah, I'd like to just make one other point is that creating more affordable housing is a value that I think we need to keep in the forefront of our minds.
I think we all agree with that. And, I think that these ADUs play a role in that. But frankly, given the number of applicants we've seen, it's very far from any silver bullet.
Well, no, of course. But maybe one of the reasons is they have to come to zoning. But in any event.
Or some of the restrictions we have in place.
Right.
With that, do we want to talk about point 10 that's highlighted here and maybe point 21 as well that was highlighted?
Yeah, that would be helpful if we could do that.
Sure.
Number 10, again, another one Brian and I disagree. My opinion is that having the ownership requirement is a good thing because I think it prevents that kind of institutional ownership and, to me, absenteeism. I think that's why the original intent of the regulation was set up, but I'm happy to be persuaded otherwise if anybody else feels differently.
I agree with you. We should leave it in.
Well,
Me
my
too.
concern with that is that, like, I'm an old lady, right? I build an ADU and I have, my somebody move into it who is providing care as well as living there. And then I pass away. So does that mean the property has to be sold unless it's going to be
It could lead to essentially that the person living in your ADU would be in violation of the zoning regs because
Right.
you would no longer be residing on the property, correct?
right? So my daughter inherits the property and wants to continue to lease it to the person who's in the ADU, and she can't. She has to either move into the house or sell the property, right? So you're
Right.
forcing the family to sell the property when they would otherwise like to retain it.
Or just not have the ADU be rented out at that point.
Yeah, well, then that
Which removes.
thing is withdrawn from the market, I suppose.
I think I tend to lean with Galen on this one, but open to Steve and Brian more of what you guys have if you want to share the pros and cons of both sides.
Yeah, I mean, one of the cons, and I don't know, it's hard, we haven't been able to see if it's actually true, is does the owner occupancy requirement discourage folks from applying for ADUs? And then kind of like what Galen was getting at with, there is a little bit of like administrative messiness in scenarios like that. I mean, those are probably the two cons. I don't know if that's enough to overcome the potential that institutional investors start buying up single family properties and renting out both units. But again, we really haven't seen that happen either. So it's kind of hard we haven't seen it happen because we didn't allow it to happen. So, it's hard to kind of weigh the two against each other.
We haven't
Maybe
two family properties, that already exist, have we? We've discovered that most of the two family houses that already exist are over 60% or more by owner occupied, right? We looked
Yeah, I
at
remember seeing that analysis, Brian. I think that was something you had pulled together when we were doing the regulation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you remind me. I have to take a double look at that and make sure that. But what Galen said sounds right.
Yeah, I think looking
Um,
at existing duplex and maybe even single family home ownership could be a way to get a sense of if this is an existing problem in the area. But similar to how we don't know if this is deterring folks from applying in the first place, we also don't know if this is also deterring investors, right? Like we won't know until we make a change.
I think probably the biggest deterrent is it probably costs $250,000 to build one of these.
Right.
Well, let's ask ourselves why. It's because everyone has different unique rules across the entire state, and every town is we can't scale this thing.
Yep.
Oh, it means construction costs probably the biggest factor in that.
Yeah.
One thing we could do, I don't know what I mean, I know this is an important issue. We've talked about it on and off for a while. We could do a survey, submit it through the city's social media outlets to try to get people to respond with half a dozen of these kind of questions about their thoughts on ADUs, and that might help feed that. And if to the chairman's point, if you hold a separate hearing on the ADU regulations, and hopefully we could try to promote that to get people to come and comment on that, you could get more feedback on these specific issues and say, hey, this is what we're thinking for changes. And because otherwise I think if you just hold a hearing on that, you're going to get no more than the typical people that pay attention to what you're doing. Regardless, you're not going to get the broader sector of the public.
The problem is, Steve, that people largely misunderstand these things. Like when we were trying in the zoning regulation, changes the zoning regulations to create areas where two-family homes were permitted, people misunderstood what that meant and were just super freaked out. We had people coming to testify that two-family homes on their street would ruin their street when there already were legal two-family homes on their street. People thought suddenly my neighborhood is going to be totally inundated with two-family homes. We all know that that's not true. It would be years and years and years before many two-family homes started to pop up on any street in Norwalk. So I think this is a kind of trigger where people are, oh my God, oh no, we might have two-family houses. That's terrible. That'll ruin our property values. But we know that's not true.
Right. I think I agree with that, Galen. I also like the idea of an education campaign to kind of like educate the public or Norwalk what actually is an ADU, right? Who does it benefit? What are the costs related to it? What are the benefits related to it? Kind of put a campaign out there of education so people are familiar with the acronym, they're familiar with the purpose, and they can visualize having one in their neighborhood because it's going to benefit not just older, relatives who have downsized and want to be close to their children, but also college students who are priced out of a one-bedroom studio apartment. Once you see the benefits of it, you're more likely to support it.
I appreciate that, JJ. I wonder if we could work with folks who have built ADUs here in Norwalk to include some of theirs as examples where that makes sense, and maybe attach that as the front matter to a survey. Because I do like the idea of gathering some feedback in that forum. Galen, I don't think we can avoid having a public hearing on the ADUs if we want to make a regulation change, though.
Oh, no,
So,
I think we should avoid a public hearing. I'm just.
Yeah, I know. I understand what you were saying
survey, I can tell you what it's going to say.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's an opportunity to get some other feedback in that, but yeah.
And number 21 really goes along with number 10. So if you keep 21, you should keep 10, or keep 10, you're going to keep 21, and if you're going to delete one, you're deleting the other.
Okay. Thank you. Should we move on to the public realm?
Yes. Consistent with what we were talking about earlier, this is something that came up, and I'll jump back to the regulation, but I wanted to start with This was the project you guys approved at 19 Day Street a couple of months ago. You remember the distilleries in the back here, and this is the existing building, and they proposed this building here. This project's in the CD4 zone, and they also were required to do public realm. So their public realm was like this little, basically this little grass area and this little grass area over here. I think that does not do anything for anybody. I don't think it does anything for the neighborhood. I'm not saying that needs to be asphalt or hard surface of any kind. It could, green space is great, but having like an area that's on a project like this or the project you looked at tonight as public realm may not necessarily be what we really need. I think under certain circumstances, great. And on key intersections and key corners where we want to have that street level activization, that's great. But I don't think it's necessarily needed on all developments. So that's why we came up with this language here, in which we had a, kind of an arbitrary, but a number of 30 dwelling units. And on certain streets, you don't have to do public realm. However, you do need to give us some money to help maintain public realm and or do something, improve parks or add green space or something like that. The reason it's in yellow is because I'm waiting for the law department to confirm something, and I'm waiting for confirmation on that $220, $225 per square foot number from TMP if they think that's a good number. So hopefully before we send out any referral, we'll have that kind of finalized. But that's kind of the gist of it, saying these smaller projects where the location really doesn't warrant that public realm space, that they're not required to provide it.
Steve, for this example, what would the fee in lieu be?
So it would be whatever that square footage is, times 225 per square foot.
So the square
times
footage
that-
of that little pocket, whatever we want to call that. I don't want to call it a parklet. Like, okay.
Yeah, whatever that turns out to be, it's 500 square feet and times 225 times the 5%. And that 225 might not be the right number, but whatever that number is.
Especially makes sense for that 19-day project, which was it's a block away from Ryan Park. So you'd expect, if you need public realm, that's where these folks are going to go. And if you're going to have more folks going to Ryan Park, that the development should help pay to maintain Ryan Park.
And I think about it similar. We used to have that, Brian, what was the term? You used to require it within developments that they used to have, rec space that you used to require within a development. And a lot of the Waypoint projects would put in some really nice gyms in their building, but then you had smaller developments that would have just like, it was like a bad hotel gym where it was like basically a glorified closet with just some exercise equipment. So we got rid of that requirement with the thought being, well, wouldn't it be better if it's a mixed use project that they actually built like a gym that was open for membership and, the residents could go there of the building, but it was also some public activation and some, another business on the street. So that's kind of similar thought process to what we're doing here. Okay. So next, I hate when it jumps. The next one is a proposal that came out of an amendment to the POCD that you're going to see probably in a couple months. The city has done an arts and culture plan, and there are some zoning overlaps with that arts and culture plan. And one of the things that they talked about was, how do we add more space for artists? How do you add more kind of living quarters where they can also do work? It'd be great if we had all this area of all these old mills and loft areas where artists could, function and create their works. But we do have the ability to incentivize artist live workspaces and also have them be the deeded workforce units. So if they did deed restrict a artist live work unit as a workforce unit, that unit could count as 2 workforce units. That's similar to what we did with the 3-bedroom unit where you counted it as 2 units, or a 2-bedroom unit, which you count as 1.5 units. So that's just kind of something under consideration. What I have flagged in yellow there is, all right, well, how do we know 4 years from now that the artist is gone and they just don't rent it out to somebody else? That is not an artist. So that would be like, would you want to have some kind of the affidavit that's required for that workforce unit indicate that it's occupied by an artist. Just wasn't sure how you wanted to go with that, which is why I highlighted it. This is some basic changes to the sign regulations, just basically talking about band signs. We've had some issues pop up with specifically in the CD3 zone, which is like Route 1 corridor stuff, where they're required to put in a 2-story building and they end up building it's sort of like a 1.5-story building. But the way the band sign regulations read, it kind of restricts where it can go. So this is basically giving them a little bit of wiggle room to where to put the sign, provided it's not, it can go as high as the parapet, provided the parapet's not more than like a 5-foot parapet. We don't want somebody doing like a 20-foot parapet just to kind of sneak in this massive sign. So that's just kind of like the gist of that. And the other piece to it is allowing it. The old regulations used to have canopy signs for like the gas station coverings, so you're like out of the elements. They used to be able to put signage on those canopies. Technically, the new regulations didn't allow that, and this would permit them to do that, which staff is comfortable with that going forward.
I say we get rid of all the sign ordinances in general.
That is not what we're recommending. So this definition would be subject to your approval of the ADUs. Basically, that's like right now the regulation has the cap of 700 if you wanted to go forward up to 1,000. So we would kind of keep that with the other application, but that's just noting that flag.
Steve, in terms of the wording floor area, are you using that as a technical term, like to line up with field cards where it says, living square footage or whatever the exact word is?
So anytime you see a word that's capitalized, that means it's a defined term. So the zoning regulations define what floor area is. So you would refer back to that term.
In the glossary in the zoning regs.
Right. Yeah. Article 9.
It's pretty much everything except for parking would count.
So my concern is there's living space versus gross space. And I mean, in real estate, you deal with it all the time. A house obviously has a lot more gross square footage than it does living square footage. And I think that's an area where there could be confusion. There could be people trying to build a full-on second house, as opposed to an accessory dwelling unit, which is intentionally smaller than the primary structure.
That's what we were kind of talking about previously with that one example that I sent out. I was looking at that one saying, boy, they have a 2-car garage and then the ADUs at 1,000 plus the 2-car garage. Now you're at a footprint of 1,500 square feet. So that's not small. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not big by, a lot of standards, but that's another consideration is I think when we come back to you with a menu of options, we'll be looking at the footprint, looking at the square footage of the whole structure, looking at the square footage only of the ADU. So we'll try to come up with a option thing for you guys to look at, and hopefully with some kind of the ramifications, pros and cons of each approach.
Great. I think that's really important for people to understand and know what 700 versus 1,000 square feet feels like.
Yeah, we'll see if we can find an example of that to look at. Next change is basically, I think, simplifying the definition of dormer. So everything that's existing would be removed, and this would be the new definition of dormer. It's basically dealing with the whole purpose of some of these regulations is really to deal with the massing that can occur. And I think this kind of deals with some of I've had a couple of examples of, and I think it gets more common when you have tear downs. And more established neighborhoods where you might have a neighborhood of, very modest houses, but whoever buys that and wants to, if they're going to flip it or it's a new buyer, they're going to try to maximize that footprint and maximize the volume they can build. So the dormer definition is one way to regulate that mass on the upper floor, which is usually the floor that causes the most consternation with the neighbors. So I think this is a better way to define it and then regulate it. Next definition is a new one. Basically, it's a nursery. So proposing take that landscape nurseries listed in the earth processing definition, but it's not defined. So everybody's like, all right, well, what is a nursery? And really, the nursery is kind of what you would anticipate to go, all right, I'm going to go buy some flowers and some shrubs and do that. And that's their only business, their principal business, versus like going to a full-on contractor yard or those kind of things. So
Stephen,
the key thing for
I'm sorry, in landscape nursery, why is that U capitalized? I understand why it's capitalized in use table, but right there,
yeah, there's a definition. I think used is a definition too. If not, then I will remove the capital, but I think it's a definition.
Okay, I apologize for interrupting.
No, that's okay, because I could be wrong. So we'll double check that. First thing to discuss and get your feedback on are the zones proposed. I don't think there'll be too much issue with the 2 industrial zones. We've also proposed it for that CD3C, which is that Route 1 corridor. So they wanted to go on, Lowe's already has a nursery. Basically, Home Depot's got a nursery at their place. The other one that might solicit some feedback would be the CD3 zone, which is primarily a residential zone. They do, I'm thinking about where I lived in other areas. There are nurseries located in like single family residential zones too. So it's really the tricky thing, which, and I'm discussing this with Brian and also discussed it with the chairman before too, was the CD3 zone. Think about Lexington Avenue and some of those areas around the hospital. We don't want somebody to take advantage of that definition and turn it into a mini contractor yard, which technically, somebody might. So if you're not comfortable with the CD3 zone, staff is no opposition to removing that as one of the zones that it could go in.
Yeah, I'm highly in favor of removing that. Just keep in mind too, this CD3 doesn't have like minimum lot sizes. So you could be on a really small lot and say, okay, I'm going to do a landscape nursery now, and just kind of worried about that.
Well, can you add language to limit the number of earth moving equipment or something like that?
There are the limitations regulations do differentiate the activity on the site between the industrial zones and the residential zones. So in the CD3 zone, the way it's drafted, it does require a special permit. In the CD3 zone, it also indicates you've got to do some more screening than required. It also limits the number of bins you can have in terms of piles, and also limits the height versus what you could otherwise do in the heavy industrial zone. So there are some more safeguards put into the CD3 zone, but if you're not comfortable with them regardless, then we can easily remove that piece of it, but just wanted to throw that out there for discussion.
Yeah, I think I agree with Brian about removing the CD3 piece, though, to play devil's advocate. If we were to keep it in, having a limitation on lot size might be a way to help address that. One landscape nursery that comes to mind here in Norwalk is Reynolds Farms, which I think is in CD1M on the other side of the highway from Costco. And I don't know if we've heard any like neighbor complaints from them, but they do operate a nursery there in a single family residential zone. Go ahead, Diana.
So with this nursery and landscaper, is there always a retail component, which would be my concern? There's one thing to have storage of nursery plants, it's another thing to have people coming to buy them and dragging them away, especially on a small lot.
Yeah, I would envision that I would envision that there would be retail on the site. It's like typically like you pull up with your what vehicle and you buy something and they may have sell bags of topsoil or mulch or lawn ornaments and those kind of things. So there's definitely it's a little all those operations are a little bit of a hybrid where they're not solely wholesale, they're not all retail, they're kind of a mix.
Right, then I would be in favor of limiting it as Chapin just mentioned.
Okay. That sounds like the consensus is to yank it out of CD3. We'll adjust and
I wouldn't want to put Reynolds out of business or any other existing landscaper. I can think of some in Stanford and Greenwich and having trouble coming up with other ones in Norwalk, but I wouldn't want to put somebody out of business.
They would be pre-existing non-conforming, right? Legally non-conforming.
Technically, yeah. We'll take a look at that again. I don't think we have too many in the city.
No, but
in
like
general.
Corville was, but they were where the school now is, and then they got moved over to Norden. Trying to think of other ones.
Yeah, this would make it easier for folks like Corville because it's like separating them away from the contractor's yard definition, since they should be separate, I think.
So then they definitely would be able to stay, in other words.
Right.
Yeah, we'll take a look and see if there's any other ones in the. I think the CD3 zone is even more different than like the single family zone. So we'll take another look just to make sure we captured everybody.
One other thing on this table while you have it up, I recommend striking, allowing it in CD3W entirely. I don't know how others feel, but that's a very small portion of the map that's on the waterfront. So where it says PL on that line.
Gotcha. That might be, yeah, no problem. We can definitely do that.
Thanks.
Next one is a definition of a patio. This was a recommendation of the kind of the permitting staff. They keep getting these kind of questions about, is this a patio? Is this a terrace? Is this retaining walls that include this? And the kind of the ramifications of that, or does it count towards impervious surfaces or not count towards impervious surface? Does it need to meet setbacks? So this is basically saying if you're actually building this patio, it's not deemed a structure, so it's not subject to the setback rules and those kind of things.
But Steve, I've had so much experience with those things in the 6th taxing district where they're taking up so much of the land, eliminating impervious surfaces, in other words, creating hardscape, going right to the edge of the property line. Think about Pond and Logan, or they're raised above the ground because they're not considered a structure. And if they were, then they would be adding to the footprint. So I think you have to be really cautious about those, especially in the smaller lot zones. They should be considered a structure because they're just making the footprint of the property more impervious.
So with this, they have to, if the key thing with this is it has to meet the existing grade. So they can't raise the grade to accommodate this. They can't have retaining walls. So if they did that, then they're automatically not a patio.
Okay.
And so
therefore would be a structure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then DPW is going to look at, all right, is this pervious or is this impervious? And then subject to the drainage standards and runoff standards of the city.
But also, as people lift their houses in flood zones, they want to lift their patio with their house. So think about that.
And well, the way I'm reading this is that it needs to be at grade. So when they lift it, it no longer becomes a patio, right? It becomes part of the structure.
Yeah, I would think it's that way. It's got retaining walls. We would not look at that as a patio anymore. So it's got to have some kind of surface on it too, just to keep in mind. So it's not grass. It's got to have flagstone or stones laid in the ground, something like that.
Does the ZBA have to apply by these same rules? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, these are the zoning regulations. The ZBA can, I mean, thinking if somebody said, someone applied for a variance of or disagreed with an interpretation, or somebody applied, we said, this is not a patio, it's a terrace, and therefore it must meet setbacks. I guess they could appeal that decision to the ZBA, and ZBA would, look at the wording here and make a determination.
okay, it's happened a couple of times when people go to lift houses and they grant the variance, and I think it's wrong, but anyway.
Have we
ZBA.
Have we heard recently or from ZBA decisions where they like redefine something that's defined here? I've heard about like changing setbacks and maybe making some exceptions, but I can't recall any that where they're changing the definition of like part of a structure.
No, and then typically Tammy Maldonado, who does works with the ZBA, if there was something, there was one about the related to the signage, band sign issue, that there was this 2-story building, and Brian probably can explain a little bit better, but that one was the only other one that they talked about where that particular pad could be located that we didn't necessarily like, but they granted the variance, so it didn't set a precedent at least. But otherwise, they haven't, in my experience, they haven't been like making like interpretation changes that would impact the rules that we have in place.
Okay. Diana?
So to Tammy's point, a lot of these patios, particularly on smaller lots, are going right up to the property line. So is there no setback associated with patios?
No, and that's pretty typical for what most communities do. If you start to really improve the area where you raise the grade, they have retaining walls, terraces, they make it, they pour concrete and the entire concrete is back there. It's like almost like a hard surface that would be regulated. But if it's just like on grade stones, it's typically not a structure because that kind of stuff is really hard for us to regulate what's happening on that on a house by house basis. That's not something that typically requires big construction projects all the time. So it's not always flagged.
Okay.
I would just keep your eye out for it on houses that are being lifted, especially by the water.
Yeah, no, that's a good point for sure. Second one is, next two are related, and again, more from the staff side in terms of what they're seeing for permits, and it relates to the encroachment table. Basically, dealing with what is a porch and just making sure that that's defined clearly, and then also what's a stoop. I had just double crossed on the definition of stoop. I had and staff said just make it landing or step, so that way it's more consistent with what's laid out in the encroachment table. Next definition, which is actually the last definition, is actually putting in a definition of what a wet bar is. This comes up quite a bit where folks want to do like an entertaining space in their house. And if they have, by current interpretations and definitions, if they have like a sink in there, it becomes a kitchen in our eyes. And then we say, sorry, you can't do it. And then they aren't happy with us. But it's pretty typical for somebody to have like a basement bar and those kind of things. So this is kind of just saying, all right, this is a wet bar provided you meet these or don't exceed these 4 bullet points.
Does that come with a permanent invite?
With a what?
I'm joking. I was saying a permanent invite to the wet bar, but
not for you. Most other people, yes.
I don't know if Corporation Counsel will sign off on that. On the last bullet point, I suggest reframing, mini fridge to maybe just under counter refrigerator. But since we limit it to one anyways when we say A, but yeah, that way we don't have to add a definition for mini fridge or regulations.
Refrigerator. How do I spell that? Refrigerator.
2 F's, 2 G's.
The next one is something that's come up a couple of times recently, and it's a way to deal with, we have very small, so we have a couple areas where this is more likely to occur than others. So the easiest example would be like in the East Ave Village District or the EVTZ zone, where if they're doing new construction, they are required to make sure that it conforms to the village district standards. And this could also be in Rowayton, for example, too, Rowayton Ave. They have to conform to the village district standards for that zone. But these might be like a 2,000 square foot addition or something small where they otherwise wouldn't come to the commission for any kind of approval. So like it doesn't rise to the level of a site plan or a special permit approval, but what the work they're doing still needs you to say that the design is consistent with the design standards for the zone. So what this regulation allows is for the commission to authorize the outside peer review. And once that outside peer review is done and they say, yes, this meets is consistent with the regulations for the village district, they're authorized to get their zoning permit. It's a way for the applicant to avoid having to go through the full site plan process, which sometimes could involve traffic studies and drainage analysis, which might not be required for the scale of application they're proposing. I'm still waiting to get confirmation from Corporation Counsel on this, but I think it works. And I think it's a way to help small businesses and smaller projects move along quicker, but making sure that the design is, consistent with the standards that the city expects. And the last one is a hold for TMP, who had 2 recommendations for the EVT design guidelines. And since they did not get this to me in time, we're not going to talk about it tonight. So, but they can deal with that at another date. Any other questions you want to go back on anything? This is, you're not voting on anything. You don't need to take any action. We're just saying, okay, for us to advance it. And then a couple months down the road, you'll see this again for public hearing.
Great. Are there other questions or comments on this?
I just had one quick question on the public realm. There was a calculation that was $225 times the square footage, and then times 5%. So do you mean in that whatever the square footage turns out to be, it's going to be multiplied by 225, get a number, and then the person will be, or the builder will be charged 5% of that number?
So, yeah, I wish I could show you. So say it's 1,000 square feet. So it's 1,000 times 225 times 1.05.
Okay. So maybe
times
like
0.05.
$18,000 then.
Wait,
It could be.
0.05, not 1.05.
Yeah,
No,
0.05.
1.05, which is 5%.
so it'll be 5% more than 225 or
Yeah,
5%
here,
of
I won't say
225,
this.
sorry.
Let's say it's 1,000 square feet.
Mhm.
So it'll be, I'm trying to do this off this keyboard.
225,000. No. Oh,
Yeah, if you did that,
I see.
that'd be like
oh,
225,000 plus 5% on top
yeah,
of that.
237 or something.
So you just do
That
you do
seems
0.0.
too much. On the other hand, If it's 5%, it's only about $12,000, which seems very little.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, but so
Yeah, I did. So if you did like so say this was a 29 unit building,
Well, that's a
29
big, yeah.
29 unit building needs 14,500 square feet of lot area. Yeah, I think how Dick did it comes out to about 16, 18, like $16,000 for the fee if it's 29 units and they have the minimum lot size to get 29 units.
Again,
What
seems too low.
So then you just up the 225 to something higher.
Right.
Well, yeah, all right. I'll come
Come
back.
back to us with another number, Steve.
Yeah, I'll do that. No
As
problem.
you planned, since it was highlighted.
Yeah, we'll come back and we'll adjust the formula.
All right. Next up is, sorry, is there anything else before we go to the minutes? All right, so next up is acceptance of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for December 3rd?
So moved.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Tammy. I think we can do this by a show of hands. All those in favor? All right. All those abstained? JJ, are you?
Yeah, I have my hand up.
Okay, so that's 3 abstentions.
My video, sorry.
All good. And then anyone opposed? All right, so meetings have passed, or minutes pass. Comments of the director. Steve, do you have any additional comments tonight?
I apologize. I forgot to mention as part of the ADU conversation, and I think we can do this as like a step B. We've been kicking around the idea of having pre-approved ADU plans. And what we'd like to do, which I think would kind of be fun, and I think the public would like, would be we'd set it up like a contest. So any architects and designers could submit plans. There would be floor plans and elevations that to the city, and then we could hold a contest through a poll and let the public vote on the submitted plans, and then say there's 40 submittals and the public ranks the top whatever number, and then we can approve. You can accept like 8 of those 10 you guys say are really good, and then they could be pre-approved ADU plans. So as long as they build this structure, they can get an approval as of right versus having to go through the different steps. So I know we've had some conversations about should we go as of right, should we not go as of right, but this would be another step to kind of expedite the process. The thing that I posed this out to several architects that we deal with to try to get their sense of because my first thought was, all right, how do they get credit for this? Because typically the architectural fees are pretty hefty for these things. But I was kind of like, all right, well, if we had and I've seen this on a couple other communities have done this. If you have the pre-approved ADU plans, we would credit the designer or the architect on our page. And so they're probably not going to get compensated for those designs every time they do it, but they're a listed architect on there and they get basically free advertising for that. So that's kind of how I think it could work. And I think it would be kind of fun for the public to have a chance to weigh in on that kind of thing and say, oh, these look nice, these don't look nice, and go from there. And we wouldn't list, as part of the contest, we would not list who submitted the designs. We would keep that to ourselves, because otherwise if they recognize somebody they don't like based on other past work, they would probably hold that against them. So we would keep that disclosure till the end.
Would there only be one winner, or would there be like?
No, there could be 20 winners technically.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think that's
no, we would not want them all to look the exact same.
Yeah, I mean, so that goes hand in hand also with public education, because once they see something tangible, an artist rendering of what it could look like, that'll be great.
Yeah, so I think maybe we come back to you in 2 weeks if the agenda lets us, and then talk through some of these ADU issues again, and then take the next steps to how to advance it.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Steve, you have anything else?
Nothing else. Thank you.
Of course. Comments of the commissioners?
I just want to bring up again the language on the front of our public meeting notice. Again, I understand it's a form that the city puts in, but it still says a speaking limit of 3 minutes, and that should come out.
Yep.
Yeah, I forgot to follow up on that. I'll do that. Thank you, Lou.
I agree. Though we do appreciate when folks, compose their comments ahead of time. So, but we will not limit them.
We encourage you to limit it to 3 minutes.
Go ahead, Tammy.
This is a request maybe for Amelia from our applicant. So for example, the applicant for Gregory Boulevard that withdrew tonight, and the question was, did they do something illegally that was on the water side of their property? It's very difficult for us to see the water side of the property, no matter how good we are at Google Earth. We had the same issue with that East Avenue applicant on the Mill Pond. Can you, as planning and zoning staff, request from the applicant that they give us some type of photograph if we are not able to see the property from the road or the part of the property that's in question?
Yeah, we can definitely ask them. And for that property as well, I know before I was in this position, I was an inspector in our department, and I had been out to that property. So I know I have photos from like over 4 years ago when I went out there. And we also have the city has a different aerial imagery system, for lack of better words, in which that's a little more accurate and it updates twice a year. It's better than Google Earth is. So we can pull from my old inspection photos, from the aerial imagery the city has access to, and we can absolutely ask the applicant as well.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great idea. All right. Well, there's no other comments. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have to go do bedtime now.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Me too. Happy New Year.